back to the channel. Please check out our last video where we took a look at the 997 Turbo, but for now, before you do that, let's check out what's coming up on today's show. TVR Cerbera was the third car produced under the directorship of Peter Wheeler at the company based here in Britain. The Griffith and the Chimera that came before it were both two-seater soft tops, so the Cerbera represents a real change in direction for TVR since it was a four-seater and available only in a hardtop. Dubbed a 3+1 rather than a 2+2 due to the sweeping dash at the front, allowing the front passenger to move their chair slightly more forward than the driver can, allowing the rear left passenger to have a little bit more leg room. The seats in the back are relatively unusable, but they are there, and I know a lot of owners actually use them for baby seats, so they are ideal for that. Another big first, not just under Peter Wheeler but for the whole of TVR's history, was that for the first time the Cerbera had its own power plant. Yes, TVR actually manufactured and implemented their own engines into the Cerbera. You've got a few different choices with the power plant, all having slightly different driving characteristics, but rest assured all being equally as thrilling and engaging. First of all, we've got the straight 6 in a 4-litre configuration, and then with the AGP V8 they produced a 4.2 and a 4.5. Now with the V8 you don't get that kind of exotic noise that you would associate with a European V8 of the time. Due to this having a flat plane crank, it gives a really throaty, absolutely awesome exhaust noise. Normally when I come round the corner, people on the streets are a little bit surprised when a Harley Davidson or a motorbike doesn't drive round the bend, but in fact a weird looking green sports car. But these sound absolutely phenomenal. I am really sorry, I just won't be doing the sound of these cars justice. With the equipment I've got, with the best will in the world, I'm not going to replicate through your screen the driving experience when you start to roll onto the throttle with these V8s. It is absolutely sensational. There was a little bit of debate at the factory whether they were to map in the pops and bangs, because it's kind of counterintuitive with things like fuel economy, but they did decide actually that they would map in pops and bangs on the V8 on the down run. So as the revs are falling, for my car it's kind of between 3 and 2,000 RPM. As the engine speed drops, you do get these really nice, really snaps, pops and bangs from the engine, and if you're in a built up area it sounds absolutely awesome. Going out for group drives when people are behind me, they get so excited from just the noise of the car and the kind of the pedestrian scaring pops and bangs. Now on to reliability. The only issue that I've had with this car in just under 2 years of ownership has been the slave cylinder. So a seal had obviously perished in the slave cylinder, meaning I lost some of the hydraulic fluid, and that was evident through the feedback from the clutch. I was able to get it to a garage about 100 miles away and it was replaced. Luckily for this car, I had a warranty. So if you are thinking about picking one of these up, the benefit, like any other car, of buying one from a dealer is that it will come with that peace of mind. Mine was actually a 12-month warranty, and I think for the additional price I would have paid for going through a dealer as opposed to a private sale was definitely worth it. When you factor in the peace of mind, which leads to kind of more enjoyment of the ownership, and the slave cylinder being supplied and replaced, it was certainly worth it. Town driving actually isn't too stressful. Obviously the clutch on these cars is fairly heavy if you're coming from more of a kind of daily driver, but actually poodling around town isn't too bad. The coolant fans tend to kick in fairly promptly and are actually very effective at bringing the radiator temperature down. So unless it was a really hot day and the car was sat in traffic for a long time, kind of that stress of overheating hasn't been a problem, certainly for this example of the Cerbera. An absolute fundamental, if you are going to have a look at one of these cars, is to have a proper inspection of the chassis outriggers. So part of the steel frame tubular chassis that is in contact with the wheels, and due to its positioning in the car, that is most vulnerable to things like stone chips, in contact with salt if it has been icy recently, and ultimately they rust. Okay, so they are the part of the car that is most prone to rusting and have got to be checked. If they are rusting, obviously you can negotiate price, but they are something that's going to need to be done, and that's something you need to factor in to a potential purchase. Being fiberglass, obviously rust is not a worry for most areas of the car. The fiberglass composite can delaminate, but that's very unusual. TVRs, as I suppose any low production sports cars may, have got a bit of a reputation for rust, so the chassis do suffer from rust. The reason is, as these came out of the factory, the protection against rust was powder coating. Powder coating is really good at protecting against rust until it gets chipped. So all you need is for a stone chip to damage the integrity of the powder coating, and there is the potential for water ingress, being exposed to salt in the winter months, and the rust can begin and also spread. Sharing with you guys today is my 4.5 litre V8 that I've owned for just over 2 years now. This car is a Red Rose edition. Red Rose denotes a dash mounted button that gives you interchangeable fuel maps based on the octane of the fuel. So you've got 95 and 97. And with the 97 mode, it's just going to retard, sort of slow down the ignition within the engine, and give you a little bit more power. So it brings the power up from the standard 420 to 440 brake horsepower. And when you're really getting on it, it is worth putting it into that mode. You do feel the throttle is slightly more responsive and a little bit more power. If you are thinking about buying one of these cars, the best advice I can give is to buy on condition after a really thorough inspection. I think if you get married to the idea that the car you're going to buy is going to be a low mileage, blue 4.5 V8, then you're going to have a much smaller pool of cars to choose from, and you're going to end up overlooking problems that might cause you issues later down the line. If the 996 Turbo that you saw at the start of the video didn't take your fancy, please subscribe and check out our next video, the one to come after this, which is a customised Land Rover Defender, P-Reg Land Rover Defender 90, which is set to be a really cool video. If you're thinking about jumping into a TVR, my advice would be to go for it. Make sure you check the service history of the car, and you undergo a thorough inspection. But if you're on the fence about buying one of these, you will not regret it. My ownership has been really, really enjoyable. Okay, exciting to drive every time I start it up. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. See you later.